What's up? What's happening? Welcome here to Lacrosse Now. I'm Travis Eldridge back with you with three terrific guests this week. We'll start things off with Ethan Walker of the Albany Firewolves, getting ready for his second season in the NLL. Ohio State head coach Nick Myers will join us, talk about the exciting time in Buckeye Land. I know the football team just lost the big one to the team up north. However, Ohio State men's lacrosse, big things. They're getting ready to open up a brand new lacrosse-specific stadium there in Columbus. Exciting times to talk about that, as well as talk about their star attackman who is back, Jack Myers. So a lot to talk about with head coach Nick Myers of Ohio State. And our watch party replay interview this week, former James Madison Duke star Kristen Gaudian talking about one of the games from her JMU career, also remembering that memorable 2018 national championship run. Obviously a memorable season for James Madison as a whole, and it was fun reliving some of those moments with Kristen Gaudian. So all that coming up here on the show, but it is opening weekend in the NLL. So we're going to start quickly with three things that I'm just kind of thinking about entering this season. We'll get further into the nuts and bolts of this after week one this past week, this next weekend. We'll talk a little bit more next week. We're hoping to have Jake Elliott on the podcast. However, three things here to know as we start week one this weekend in the NLL. I'm going to start with the defending champs. We'll start with the mighty Mammoth, this Colorado team, the defending champs. And it's still, you look back at how last year ended and how close Buffalo seemed to be to clinching that title. Colorado really had a roller coaster regular season. They got hot at the right time, and they cap off a title. A lot of that thanks to Dylan Ward. And not only did Dylan Ward was he the goalie for that Mammoth championship team, then goes outside and is the goalie for a championship team in the PLL as the Water Dogs win it. This team continues to go as far as he will take them. I mean, we've seen it with Matt Vince for Buffalo, how great he has been. Dylan Ward has been that good for Colorado here in his career, and he's a major reason why they are the defending champs. I will be interested to see now that if they get all the offensive pieces back. Remember, Ryan Lee, who was their offensive star, their leading scorer, wasn't available in the finals for them. So they win it without him. You bring him back, you have the confidence of being the defending champs. How does that work with this team in the regular season? And really the big question for Colorado throughout this year, are they the team we saw in the playoffs that went on that magical run that won the title? Or are they the team that we saw in the regular season, which at times struggled to score, was up and down, lost some games they probably shouldn't? So that will be the question for the Mighty Mammoth. They open the season against the Rush Saturday night, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time. All right, topic number two, the things that I'm looking for here in the NLL season. The Super Seals. We're staying out west for the first two of these. This offense is absolutely loaded. So you know what they have coming back. You have Dane Doby, Austin Stotts, Mac O'Keefe, obviously a terrific shooter. Wes Berg, part of the San Diego offense. And they added in Curtis Dixon and Kevin Crowley. So the offense is an all-star offense. It is an all-star cast of characters reuniting Dixon and Dane Doby from the Calgary days. Obviously, they were two superstars there with the Roughnecks throughout that part of their careers. They're now together in San Diego. What will they get on the other end of the floor? Or are they just going to have to try to outscore everybody? And how does that offense mesh together? Obviously, training camp's only so long. It'll be interesting to see here early on how that offense meshes together. They play the New York Riptide on Saturday. For San Diego, should be a win, but you never know. Finally, let's go to the team that had the heartbreak at the end of last season. Is it the Bandits' time? Because it felt like it was last year. Dane Smith goes on an all-time great type season. They outscored opponents by 62 goals in the regular season. That was their goal differential, 62. It was 20 plus more than anybody else in the league. There was no question in the regular season of who the best team in the NLL was, but they didn't win the championship despite the fact they had a 1-0 lead in a best-of-3 series against Colorado in the finals. But being one game away means you still didn't finish the job. So can they finish the job this time around? I mean, you probably only have so long left with this core, especially if Matt Finn's 40 years old plus in goal, and he continues to be an incredible goalie. So but it's like the Tom Brady effect. How much longer do you have with Matt Vince playing this way in goal for you to try to win a title? Dane Smith, Josh Byrne, Tehoga Nanticoke, they're all back. Have some different pieces offensively that have been shifted around, but the core's still there. The question is, can they finally get over that hurdle and win that title this year? So that will be something I will be watching. Those three things be something I will be watching here to open the year. By the way, Bandits play the Albany Firewolves to kick things off on Saturday night here in Week 1. Speaking of the Albany Firewolves, Ethan Walker, now a member of that squad. It's a new look offense, especially for Albany. Kind of restarted things. They made the trade with Georgia to pick up Ethan Walker. Going to be a lot of fresh faces on that offense. They're going to have something to prove. They're going to have to figure it out along the way. Had a chance to catch up with Ethan prior to that first game earlier today.
This segment of Lacrosse Now is brought to you by Watch Dingo.
So as we get ready for the first weekend of the NLL season, we've got now Albany Firewolves player Ethan Walker joining us. Ethan, a new team for you here in year 2. How does it feel?
It feels good. You know, it's definitely something different when you get traded after your first year. Obviously, I played in Georgia my first year, and then in the offseason, I got traded to Albany. And, you know, it took me some time to kind of cope with what it's like being traded because, to be honest with you, I've never been traded before. But I think it's a good fit for me, and not that it wasn't a good fit for me in Georgia, but I think that Albany provides us something that's a little bit different, and I'm excited about, my future in Albany.
Yeah, what is that like? Because, I mean, it's one thing I feel like to get traded maybe a couple of years in, you've experienced it a little bit, but like it almost feels like you just got started here with your NLL career and boom, you're on to team number 2.
Yeah, it was definitely a weird feeling. I mean, I remember I was in the Atlanta airport and I got a call from our owner and general manager, John Arlotta, of the Swarm. And he called me and he just said, Ethan, I got some bad news. We've traded you to Albany. It was a pleasure getting to know you and having you play for the Swarm, but, best of luck for you. I said my thanks to John, and, he was a great guy. We talked from time to time still. 5 minutes later, I get a call from Glenn Clark, who's the head coach of the Albany Firewolves. He's like, welcome to the squad. I'll see you at training camp. It was quick turnaround for sure, but no, I'm excited about it for sure.
So you've obviously been to training camp here with Albany, getting ready for Week 1. What's been the feel around this Firewolves roster?
Yeah, I mean, we're definitely a new team, I guess you could say. Our offense, we only have 2 returning guys on offense. There's Tanner Thompson and Charlie Kitchen. Those are the only 2 guys who played offense for them last year. So a lot of new faces in our offensive lineup. So we had to build chemistry quick over, our 4 weekends of training camp. But we have some really good young talent, which is what I'm most excited about, being able to play with, Kieran McCardle again, who I play with on the Water Dogs, and Connor Kelly and Charlie Kitchen. Like the 4 of us playing on the Water Dogs together is already a little bit of chemistry, and then some younger guys. It's going to take a little bit more time, I think, to build up a little bit more chemistry, because 4 weekends is definitely not enough. Yeah. But you know what? That's what the season's for.
No, yeah. I mean, you kind of got to grow, and the team you're going to be Week 1 is going to be very different by the time you get to the middle of the season. Mm-hmm. What did you learn your first year playing in Georgia? Because obviously in Georgia, you're surrounded by players like Lyle Thompson. Like, what do you take away from that experience that you take with you?
Yeah, I mean, for me personally, I learned that I didn't need to be the guy who needs to handle the ball, the whole time. I was able to understand my role, which was to go out there and just play my hardest and pick up tough ground balls, and, set picks, play off the ball, play on the ball. So that's, the one thing with box lacrosse that's different with field lacrosse is that you don't really want the ball in your stick that long. You want the ball to be constantly moving because it is such a smaller area, and you're not, getting a 15, 20 yard dodge in. You're moving within, 10, 15 yards on the floor. So that's one of the biggest things that I took from my first year in Georgia.
I've heard from other players have spoken to about the adjustment to playing with a guy like Lyle Thompson is that, like, he's so different maybe than any other player you see, that there's an adjustment of trying to adjust to how he's going to pass and how he's going to operate. Hey, can you compare playing with him to anything else you've done in your career?
Honestly, I can't. He is one of the most incredibly talented lacrosse players I have ever had the pleasure of playing with. I mean, some of the things that he does just even in practice. And, as a rookie last year, me and another guy, Tanner Buck, we were both left-handed rookies on our offense. And some of the stuff that he did, we're just like looking at each other like, what is going on here? Humans can do that. I mean, he's just such a special talent. He's such a great player. He's also a great guy off the floor too, which was, you sometimes don't see that a lot with guys who are as talented as Lyle. He's such a great locker room guy. He's such a great talent. He's such a great guy off the floor. And, again, I have the pleasure of playing with him, and now I have the pleasure of playing against him.
So kind of, I guess, along those same lines, like, what was your welcome to the NLL moment? Like, when did it sink in, oh, I'm in it?
Yeah, I think it was our game in Rochester. I believe it was in January. I had a tough time scoring my first goal in the NLL. I kept getting good looks. I couldn't find the back of the net. And then we were playing a game in Rochester, and we had, 5 or 6 guys out with COVID. And one of the guys was Shane Jackson, who was obviously our biggest left-handed guy. I mean, he scores 40 goals almost every year. And so, in that game, I was able to, score a couple goals, and I felt like, okay, my time is, I've made it to the NLL now. Like I finally feel like I belong.
You certainly do belong. You're one of the more talented guys you've seen here coming into the league in the last couple of years. With Albany now, you kick off against Buffalo, who is coming off of an incredible year. Obviously, it's a great environment there in Bandit Land. What do you look at here with week 1?
Yeah, it's going to be a hard-fought battle. Buffalo is obviously a good team. They're both good. They're good offensively, defensively, and their goalie is one of the best, if not the best, in the league currently. It's and us coming in as a little bit of a newer, younger looking offense is going to be a tough task for us, but we're up for the challenge. I look at this game like we're going in and we have nothing to lose. And I think that's the biggest thing that we should be focusing on as an Albany offensive unit is essentially like, listen, these guys they almost won a championship last year. They have, most of their roster back, and here's us. We have nothing to lose. We're still trying to build chemistry. We're a young, athletic group, and we're just ready to get after it.
Well, speaking of winning championships, you did that this summer with Water Dogs. What was that experience like?
Oh, it was an incredible experience, to be honest with you. I've won a couple of championships in my life. I was fortunate enough to win a Man Cup back in 2019 with the Peterborough Lakers back home, my senior box team. But winning a professional league is, I can't really put it into words how it felt, but it was, it's a back and forth game. There was at some points in the game, we were down, they went up early. I think they went up 3 or 4-0 in the first quarter. We clawed our way back, and then we kind of held that lead, and, our defense was just incredible that game. And they provided us on offense with so much support, and, having Dylan Ward as a goalie isn't such a bad thing at all. No. So it was, it was a great experience, and being able to celebrate it with some of those guys was awesome.
What was your favorite part of the celebration? There has to be like a great story.
Yeah. I mean, having some of the Barstool guys in our locker room after, drinking beers with us, and, it was taking pictures with us and getting Big Cat on a FaceTime. I mean, that's something that, I told my buddies, and they couldn't believe it. So that was definitely one of the cooler things that I've been able to do in my life.
Yeah, FaceTiming with Big Cat's good for the street cred. Especially now. I mean, you're coaching some younger kids now. That's like, I mean, money in the bank for you.
Absolutely. I mean, everyone knows who Barstool is. Everyone knows, the podcast Part of My Take. Everyone knows who Big Cat and PFT are. So being able to say that, maybe I don't know them, but I've been on a FaceTime with them, that's a pretty cool thing to walk away with.
Yeah, you're part of their squad there in the PLL. Yeah. Before we go, I want to talk about what you're up to now, because you're not in a typical part of the country for lacrosse. You're now in Kansas City, Missouri, helping to coach some younger players and grow the sport there. Tell people what you've been up to and now just kind of early on to a new gig down there.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been fortunate enough to get a job as a director for a youth sports complex. So we deal with 6 sports. We have lacrosse, baseball, basketball, soccer, football, and volleyball. And all of our facilities are indoor. So the facility that I work at specifically has about 150,000 square feet of indoor turf space. And then we have, batting cages and pitching tunnels, basketball and volleyball courts, all of that stuff. And so, I was kind of brought here to give a little bit of a different coaching style than was what previously was here. Now, not to say that the coaching has been bad here at all, because Kansas City has a couple really good high schools and a couple really good players that go off and play in college. But at some point there, sometimes you need a little bit of a change, and that was what I was brought in for. And so, I'm excited to be bringing in some younger kids who maybe have never even seen or heard of lacrosse before into the lacrosse world, because it is such a small world, and a lot of people in the lacrosse world know a lot of people. So it's been a journey for the last 3 months getting this thing going, but I'm excited for the future.
Yeah, it's really cool, man, and good luck with everything. It's what everybody says, you get a stick in a bunch of kids' hands, like chances are there are going to be a bunch of them that fall in love with it, and you get some really good athletes, and you never know where the sport can take you. So really cool what you're doing. Good luck with it. Thanks so much for the time, and I can't wait to see you back out there on the floor this weekend for Albany.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much for your time.
So you've got Ohio State head coach Nick Myers joining us now. Coach, I just want to start with this because I just saw it on social media. The videos you guys did for National Signing Day, awesome. Where'd the idea come from?
Well, thank you for that. We've got some great feedback. Certainly, we're really excited about this class that we just signed. But I got to give all the credit to Travis Crane, our associate head coach, and my man, Mitchell Pelkey, who is really a household name, certainly for my boys and for a lot of young men and women out there that love lacrosse. He's done an amazing job and built a heck of a platform. But behind the camera, man, he's as good as anybody out there. And so Travis and Mitchell kind of partnered. They kicked around some ideas. We really wanted to get our support. We feel like our support staff and the people around this program are just incredible. And so had some fun, got some different folks involved, and really put together what we thought was kind of a unique and fun signing day experience for these men, and try to make it, like I said, make it fun for them as well.
Yeah, you got the local sports guy involved. Like you got it was awesome. So if anybody hasn't seen him, go check out the Instagram account. You're coming off this fall. You guys are getting ready kind of for finals, winter break, before you then would come back here in January. What have you learned about this team this fall?
Yeah, thanks for asking. It's been a lot of fun. This group has really, we got a lot of pieces back. But we also, we graduate some key guys, some guys that played in the pros this summer, guys like Justin Anasio and, Jackson Reed, so those aren't guys, those are 5th-year guys that you just don't replace, so we've gotten some holes that we got to fill. We've gotten some new faces, a freshman class, a few transfers. But like everybody, we've had some injuries, we've had some guys in and out of the lineup. So, I think you always want to come out of the fall and have a good sense of strengths and weaknesses. We played Robert Morris on a Sunday and then turned around and played Princeton on a Friday, and they were great. Both were on the road. Both were great opponents, both very different styles. And, I think we learned a lot about ourselves through those experiences. But I would say it's a hungry group. Jack is back. For those that maybe don't know, Jack Myers is back. And I think, it really starts with him. He sets the tone, not just from a standpoint of like his talent and his abilities, but really his focus, his determination, and guys like Connor Camille, Jake Schneider, Trent DeChico, these guys are in lockstep with him in terms of driving this culture, driving the guys to do the stuff behind the scenes this time of year that you need to do to be in a position, in the new year to be serious about competing.
You mentioned Jack Myers, and we saw at times last year that he made that step where he's like one of those guys that it can be like a number one guy, not only just for your team, but across the country. He's one of those guys you talk about. What did you guys discuss kind of in the offseason and in this fall about things he works on in order to even make another step? Because it feels like at times maybe he could have even made another step.
Yeah, well, I agree with most of that. I mean, I feel like we rode him like about as hard as you can last year. So to the point where we almost felt like I was asking more of him than I should. So do I think his game has another level? I do, though. So I would agree with that piece.
Okay.
Logan Schuss, Jesse King, Kevin Buchanan, Joe Delgarno, Trey. I've been super privileged to coach some great ones. I mean, I've never coached an attackman like Jack. He's that good. He's that special. And that's even putting him in the same light as some of these guys in Team USA that I've had the privilege of coaching. I mean, he's really unique. His size, his vision, his ability to play with two hands. He can play above the goal, behind the goal. In my opinion, and a lot will depend on our team. He's a bona fide player of the year candidate, and I'm not sure that we've necessarily had that, but he gets some credit. But I mean, I want to say that for anyone that's listening, I truly think he's that good. The keys for him to be successful are pieces around him, bringing in Richie this offseason, bringing in another dodging attackman. I think you're going to see an attack at Ohio State that has at least 2, if not 3 dodgers, which is a little bit different than we've been in years past. So taking a little bit of the workload off of him, moving him around, making it harder for teams to really just try to load up on him. And then really skill development. He's worked incredibly hard in the weight room. He elected to stay here this summer. He had a great summer. He's gotten healthy. He wasn't healthy at full strength at the end of the year. And this summer, he's worked really hard with our training staff to get stronger, especially his lower body. And he's developed an edging program where he's shooting and getting reps, working on his time and rim shot. So, yeah, I could keep going. Obviously, I'm a big fan of Jack.
Yeah.
I think he's a big time prospect for the PLL. I know he wants to continue to play beyond his time here at Ohio State, and I think he will, both at the professional level and potentially at the international level.
Yeah, I only say the next step thing because, like, there are times where I see these flashes where it's like the whole thing slows down for him. And when he's like that, and I've seen him in a couple of games, it's like he's in just a whole nother level. And the more that happens, it's danger time for the rest of the teams that you play.
Yeah, no, you make a great point. I mean, he's really special that way. He's like having another coach on the field. Offensively, we kind of finish each other's sentences a lot, in film sessions. And it's almost like, hey, Jack, don't talk, because he knows it inside and out. We get others going, but he's been really great with bringing guys along. Guys like I mentioned, like a Richie who's new to the system, who's learning. Some of the young freshmen. He's a great coach. He's a great leader. He's a great captain, and the relationship that him and I have and that he has with our staff is pretty special. You want to enjoy every day because when you have a chance to coach a guy like him for 5 years, you develop some tendencies and some moments that, it just only time can build. And so I'm really looking forward to having the opportunity to coach him this year and excited about what we can put around him and what we can do on that offensive end of the field under, Coach Lewis's leadership.
On the other end, you mentioned some of the transfers, and I think one of the big ones is Marcus Hudgens coming into your program. What have you seen from him? Because obviously when we've seen him on the field in college lacrosse, he's been a dominant defender. What's that addition been for that end of the field?
Yeah, I mean, he's certainly made practice more competitive. There's no doubt about that. Having him and Bobby down there, it's a lot to think about if you're an attackman. You know what I mean? You got 2 guys that are working off each other. And I think Marcus is a little different. It's easy to kind of say, okay, him and Bobby have similarities, but they're very different players. I mean, Bobby, is really a guy that's at his best, one-on-one on the ball. He's patient defender. He can match feed. He can navigate picks. Marcus has the ability to really cause turnovers. I mean, he can get out. He can play on wings. He can play up or down. He wants to challenge you on the perimeter. He wants to get the ball on the ground. He likes to be confrontational with his hands. And so, yeah, it's been a lot of fun getting to know Marcus, getting him comfortable here as a Buckeye. He has aspirations of working for NASA and being an astronaut. He's a pretty amazing young man. I think him and his family are just they're pretty special, and I think he's been a real blessing to the brotherhood to add him in and get to know him. And I'm excited about what he can do as a Buckeye, certainly when the time comes. Yeah,
that is special for sure. One of the guys who I think is a really special athlete I saw play in high school that you guys have is Ari Allen. Like, he played, people may not know, he played football at IMG Academy as well as playing some lacrosse. What kind of athleticism have you seen from him? Obviously saw a little bit of run here as a freshman, now as a sophomore.
Yeah, no, you nailed it. I mean, Ari's someone that we identified early as an 8th, 9th grader. Again, I will credit Travis Crane for that recruiting process. You know, it was a long process. You know, he was pretty focused on football for most of his high school career. I think he led IMG. In fact, I know he did in receptions on the nation's best football team in the country. You know, so I think he had opportunities, but we stayed the course. And at the end of the day, he elected to the Fisher College of Business, and the opportunity to come to Ohio State, he felt like was best for him. And, you know, to have him here was huge. To just landing Ari, we felt like was a big deal. And then, you know, when you get to know Ari, again, he's a really unique young man. He's on our leadership council. He's been identified early on as a freshman, sophomore now as a leader of this team. It's because of the way he works. I mean, he stayed here this summer. He had an internship. He put in a ton of time on his game. You know, I think last year it was really about making that transition from a football player to back to really becoming a lacrosse player, and to play as a true freshman. He ran on our first midfield line. He did a lot for us. And by the end of the year, he was getting pulled, you know, so I think now for him as a sophomore, it's about, you know, developing his game, you know, kind of taking that game, in my opinion, to kind of that next level, you know, being able to kind of minimize the turnover ratio a little bit, being able to, you know, just be more productive, read slides, read defenses, things of that manner that maybe, you know, he just needs a little bit of time to understand. But there's no doubt, you know, when you see him dodge, you see him do some things, it jumps off the page at you. Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, I remember listening to coaches at IMG talk about, like, oh, hey, yeah, he's also a star on our football team. And I watch him on the lacrosse team, like, this guy's unbelievable. So you guys got a good one there. I'll finish with this. It's an exciting time for you guys in Buckeye lacrosse land. You're getting ready to open up a brand new lacrosse-specific stadium there for this season. What's the excitement level around the team and the program and the school to know that you guys have a place to call your own for home starting this year? Yeah, I'll try to be brief because I'll take this one forever. But, you know, it's been a long time coming. $24 million stadium. You know, I'm not sure there's been ever anything done like that in lacrosse, men's and women's only, all fundraised by Buckeye Nation. It's got a lot of incredible fan experiences. It's really unique. It's got 360 seating. It's got a shooting room, a heated field. It's the grandstand's 800, but it's got some incredible like berm seating, standing room, sideline seats. So I think when you get, you know, 2,000-3,000 people in there, it's going to feel like a rock show. And that's exactly what we wanted. We wanted this to be a really unique venue for those fans. I mean, we had almost 5,000 at our last home game in the shoe versus Team Up North. So the fan base is proven. We're excited to get in there. We're excited for our schedule, and we're excited for what Buckeye Lacrosse now has as a future home for years to come to not only compete in, but to train in every day and really call our own. So we're very thankful. We've done it on the backs of a lot of great Buckeyes. Yeah, it's going to be really cool. And from everything I've seen, the place looks just unbelievable. So can't wait to see you guys get in there and play your first game there this year. Coach, enjoy this little bit of break here in the winter, and we'll catch up sometime as we get ready for 2023. Thank you so much. Appreciate you. Always appreciate the time from Ohio State head coach Nick Myers. Going to be fun to watch that team that's got a bunch of pieces back. Not a Big Ten that, with Maryland losing a bunch offensively, losing offensive coordinator Bobby Benson, we'll be interested to see if it opens up a little bit more for Ohio State, because Maryland last year, and honestly the last couple of years, has been as dominant as we've seen in a conference in college lacrosse here in quite a while. So the things open up a little bit more for the Buckeyes to maybe contend for a Big Ten title this year will be fun to watch. Moving on here on the show, we've been replaying some of our favorite watch party interviews that we've done here over the last couple of months. And this couple of weeks ago, we had our latest watch party, the CAA Women's Watch Party. We relived some of the great games in CAA women's lacrosse that we've had here on LSN over the last several years. A couple of them involving the team that's been a perennial power in the CAA, James Madison. They've since moved on, but
when they were part of this conference, they were the class of the conference. One of their stars, Kristen Gaudian, had a chance to go back in time with her a bit, relive some memorable moments from a 2018 season that ended in a national championship. So the CAA watch party continues, and we revisit things with the JMU Dukes, now joined by former Duke Kristen Gaudian. Kristen, thanks so much for taking some time.
Thank you. Good to be here.
So we're going to talk about what was a magical 2018 season for you guys. And the game we're about to show everybody was part of that big winning streak that led to you guys winning the national championship. End of the regular season, you guys in Towson battle in an all-time thriller, ended up taking a couple of overtime sessions. What do you remember about that game that finished off the regular season?
Yeah, I mean, that was a big game for us because that, if we didn't win that, we wouldn't have been a top seed going into the tournament. But that was a thriller for sure. Every game against Towson is always intense. It's scrappy, and super chippy. So it was definitely a good game.
You talk about the Towson rivalry because I feel like every time that you guys played over the course of your career there, it was a battle. What was that rivalry like with Towson throughout your time there?
Oh, it goes far, but beyond when I was there. It's just always been a rivalry. We leading up to the season, I mean, that's always the CAA competitor that we have on our backs throughout the whole season, and know that most of the time we'll end up playing them in the championship. So they're just a big rivalry with us.
And the same thing would happen this year. You guys would end up playing Towson again in the CAA championship game, I think a week after this game. But this game in particular, I remember it taking forever. The game just went on and on and on. You guys led by 5 at one point in the second half. You're up by, I think it was 3 with 4 minutes left, but they started capitalizing on free positions. What happened there at the end, and how? What do you remember feeling at the end of the game as they're coming back?
Yeah, I remember we had, I think, around 3 yellow cards that hit us hard, and I don't know. It was just definitely an intense second half, and going into overtime, definitely intense there too. But it was fun. Those games are always fun to look back on.
Yeah. All right. So in overtime, both teams had a couple opportunities, and then you finally cash in on a great cut down to the middle. What do you remember seeing?
Yeah, I noticed that there was no girl on me. So obviously cut through the middle. Katie Kerrigan, great feeder. And she just thread the needle and we got it done. And then I remember, as you have to drop your stick. So I'm like, oh my gosh, I hope my stick is legal. So yeah, it was good.
I can't remember. I mean, how many game-winning walk-off goals did you score in your career?
I think only 2, just UNC and Towson.
Those are 2 pretty big ones.
Yeah, those are big ones. Yeah. Do
you have a favorite?
I think UNC. UNC was definitely my favorite. I mean, beating UNC is, that's just awesome. And we did it twice that year, but, and double overtime too versus UNC was huge.
So, that's all part of this 2018 season, which you talk about is just the run that you guys went on. You mentioned the UNC win. That starts it. This overtime win against Towson finished it. You ended up winning 14 in a row. What was it about that group that even in tight moments when things got tense, you guys were able to thrive? Yeah,
I think it was just built on the fact that we all trusted each other. And there wasn't one person on the attacking end that ran the show. Everyone was a contributor. We all had our strengths, and if one team was, shutting down one player, someone else would step up, or 3 more people would step up to fill the role. So we just ran pretty deep that year.
Watching championship weekend now and like thinking back on what you guys accomplished, like, do you sometimes have to feel like you have to pinch yourself and go, I can't believe like we did that, like being at JMU, obviously like that's the goal going in and everybody talks about it, but like there can't be a ton of yourself that believes it until you completely do it, especially being a program that's never done it before. So like, what do you think back on when you think of what you guys accomplished?
It's crazy. I mean, that was one of the best days of my life, and it honestly feels like an out-of-body experience. Like, it's nuts. Like, looking back on it, I just still can't believe that it happened. So, yeah, it was just awesome. I mean, there's nothing better than closing out your collegiate career with a win. You know, only one team gets to do that. So,
we were talking to Haley Warden about this a little bit ago, and she said she didn't really feel like she realized how big it was until after the fact, and like when you guys are celebrating in the banquet at the end of the year. When did it hit you like how big it was, not only for you guys what you accomplished winning a title, but for the program and for the athletic department?
Yeah, I can definitely agree with Haley on that. It probably didn't hit me until around the same time, like 6 months later. I remember feeling after the game, like, okay, what's next? Like, we beat Boston College, like, who are we playing now? And it just didn't feel like it was the end. Like, it felt like we still had more to give. But I mean, that's how it goes.
What was the coolest part about that year?
I just think that the team in general was so tight knit, close, and like I said before, we just trusted each other more than I've ever seen before on a team. And there was never a day where I was going to practice thinking, oh man, I don't want to go today. Like, it was always so fun. And if someone was down that day, we'd find a way to support them and bring them back. But it was just a blast. The whole year was so fun. Obviously, it's fun when you're winning, but even the Maryland game that we played was still a great game, and it was still a close game, and it was one of my favorite games that we had that whole season. So even though we didn't win that one, but it was still fun to play in.
Well, it's certainly, you mentioned it's fun to win, and one of those 14 straight games is this game we're about to show where you guys knocked off Towson. A couple overtimes, so everybody settle in and get ready to watch a great one between JMU and Towson here. And Kristen, thanks so much for taking some time, and we'll catch up here sometime soon.
Sounds good. Thanks so much.
And remember, you can watch Watch Party every Wednesday. New ones come out starting at 8 a.m. Eastern Time, and then they start replaying at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. Also, a new feature, if you missed some of the past Watch Parties, go to our YouTube page. There are playlists with all of the segments all put together. So if you missed part of it, if you missed all of a Watch Party, they are all now going up on the YouTube page. So check out our playlist feature in our YouTube page, and you can rewatch them there as well. But also new ones Wednesdays, 8 a.m. and 6 p.m. Eastern Time here on LSN. Well, that is all the time we have for you this week. As we mentioned, NLL season kicking off this weekend. We'll recap week one next week. Also, hopefully catch up with Jake Elliott as well to get a little bit more in depth into the NLL season. Exciting time. We've got new lacrosse kicking off this weekend. Going to be a lot of fun. Enjoy NLL week one, and we will see you next week.